Even with these films belonging to some of the most adored franchises of all time, establishing the right tone, delivering an effective emotional hook, or attempting to reintroduce some of the most popular characters in movie history in these prequel openings isn't what you class as the easiest task on the planet. Each of the following opening sequences almost definitely knocked it out of the park from the get-go, however, and quickly signaled to film fans that they were in for a hell of a feature-long flashback. Gareth here from WhatCulture.com, and here are the 10 best opening scenes from movie prequels. Number 10, a black and white introduction, Casino Royale. Admittedly, even Daniel Craig himself has been quick to question whether his time in the suit and tie can be classed as a prequel period for 007, though he eventually noted how he was actually a fan of the idea. So if you also subscribe to the theory of his James Bond sitting at the center of a prequel saga of sorts, which involves him earning his 00 status and license to kill, before eventually having his origins unpacked on the big screen, then Casino Royale and its unbelievably stylish opening certainly earn their place on this list. This first glimpse at the blonde Bondshell is delivered entirely in black and white, with a not yet fully 007'd Bond found waiting for the traitorous Dryden in the shadows. In between a brilliantly tense back and forth between the pair, Craig's Bond can then be seen displaying the sort of ruthless physicality that would ultimately go on to define his run as the icon, brutally battering and eventually killing Dryden's contact in a bathroom. Cutting Dryden off before he could even get his statement of Bond's second kill being a bit easier than the first, the newly promoted MI6 agent puts a swift bullet in his head. As slick as all hell, yes, considerably, then paves the way for the legendary shot down the barrel visual back in that gritty bathroom setting. And Chris Cornell's outstanding "You Know My Name" catapults us right into the franchise reigniting action. Number 9, Krennic Gets His Man, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. With Galen Erso and his family hiding away on the planet Lamu, there and the audience's peace is soon disturbed by the ominous arrival of director Orson Krennic and his frightening death troopers early on in Rogue One. The sight of the Erso clan going into pre-planned battle stations, with Jyn and her mother Lyra desperately prepping for their immediate exit, injects heaps of glorious tension before the Empire have even officially stepped foot on their land. A new collection of compelling faces are all masterfully introduced from there, an emotional gut punch of witnessing a rebellious Lyra being gunned down before her husband and child sets the tone of the flick in general early, and young Jyn's innocence being effectively stomped out by the Empire is expertly established too. But all hope isn't lost, folks. Saw Gerrera's eventual rescuing of the traumatized and hidden child also subtly hints at the light that refuses to go out throughout the 2-hour tragedy that is Rogue One. Number 8, The Fall of Erebor, The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. The first installment of the Lord of the Rings prequel trilogy of Hobbit flicks marvelously juggled the nostalgic feel of those prior Peter Jackson epics, whilst also beautifully setting the events of the 3-film Middle-earth history lesson in motion during its prologue. As Bilbo Baggins delivers an opening monologue designed for the pointy ears of his nephew Frodo, the iconic Hobbit goes about scribbling and delivering the story of how the kingdom of Erebor and town of Dale fell. Everything from the way the mighty dwarf king Thror found himself ultimately becoming corrupted by the Arkenstone within his glistening mountain, to the breaking down of the relationship between dwarves and elves being perfectly captured in the look share between a fleeing Thorin and a reluctant to engage King Thranduil, confidently set the pieces in place for the drama and adventures to come. But it's in the introduction of Smaug that Jackson really delivers the goods here, going full Jaws in never once fully revealing the fiery threat from above, the chaos and devastation caused with every swing of his tail, swipe of his claws, and wave of fire breathed onto the innocent folks below is realized in a sequence as gorgeous as it is heartbreaking. If anything, this hugely impactful prologue arguably worked a little too well, with much of the stretched out tale that followed struggling to really recapture the magic of this unexpected journey's opening. Number 7, George Kirk's Sacrifice, Star Trek. J.J. Abrams' 2009 mission to boldly reboot the Star Trek franchise also acted as a prequel of sorts to the action Trekkies had already seen unfold over the years, and a ton of time-traveling madness ultimately sets up the sort of entirely gripping opening scene needed to sell fans on this compelling new take on the familiar crew and worlds they occupy. With Nero's massive Narada ship breaking out from a supposed lightning storm in space, the USS Kelvin soon comes under attack, a move that forces Captain Robau to come aboard the intimidating Romulan vessel to negotiate a ceasefire. Nero then resumes his vicious attack on the Kelvin after the captain fails to recognize an Ambassador Spock, leading to as spectacular a space assault as you're ever likely to witness. But it's amongst the stylishly shot carnage unleashed by Nero's spacecraft that the true gold of this opening lies. Upon realizing that the lack of autopilot function meant that he had to personally guide the craft into a collision with the Narada, unexpected Captain George Kirk decides to make the ultimate sacrifice to save not only his crew members but his wife pregnant with his son Jim. Gorgeously accompanied by a poignant score, Chris Hemsworth's touching work during George's final words with his loved ones, as he braces for impact let folks know early on that they weren't in any way ready for the alternate reality on the horizon. Number 9. The Shanghai Sequence, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Jumping back before the legendary events of Raiders of the Lost Ark, fans are reintroduced to everyone's favourite whip cracker on the back of a glorious song and dance anything goes routine, performed by Willie Scott in the middle of the brilliantly titled Club Obi-Wan locale, puncturing that rousing number with an instant hit of uneasiness as a white-suited Jones takes a seat opposite crime lord Lao Che. Some already perilous negotiations over the remains of Emperor Nuhachi are dialed up a few notches after Indy downs a poison-infused cocktail, popped champagne, gunshots, fiery human kebabs, and general mayhem soon ensues as Jones proceeds to punch his way through henchmen in his bids to get his hands on the antidote, all while Willie attempts something similar with a particularly lovely looking diamond. It's Indy at his underdog best, creatively thinking on his feet to battle his way out of the increasingly dangerous scenario. And the thrilling car chase, bringing with it the arrival of Ke Huy Quan's lovable short round, brings the breathless opening to a hilariously outrageous conclusion, with the reveal of their getaway plane being owned by none other than Che himself. Oh, Indy. Number 5. Charles and Eric's reintroductions, X-Men First Class. Repeating the powerful visual of a young Eric Lensher unleashing his ability to manipulate metal on a barbed wire fence upon being separated from his family in 2000's first live-action X-Men outing, Matthew Vaughn's 2014 prequel decided that if it isn't broke, don't bother trying to fix it. The impactful sight of the soon-to-be Magneto fighting with all he has to keep his parents from being sent to their deaths in Auschwitz is given a slight additional stinger though. Eric is ultimately forced to witness his mother be gunned down by Nazi scientist Klaus Schmidt, with this violent act leading to an even more distressing magnetic display of raw emotion. In between those first Magneto glimpses, First Class also opts to jump on over to Westchester, New York. Here, Lensher's devastating reveal of his gifts is accompanied by a first look at a young Charles Xavier and Raven. Only what threatens to become yet another traumatic experience soon turns into a rather charming first encounter between the pair instead, as Charles sees through the eventual Mystique's disguise and offers the lost soul refuge in his lavish home. And in depicting the hugely contrasting worlds both highly influential figures take their first mutant steps in, fans were given a deeper look at the early life events that would ultimately influence the eventual pals' many collisions in the future. Number 4. The Hunt, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. After a fascinating look at how the simian flu gripped the globe on the back of the prior events of Rise, the camera turns to the apes who have set up a new home in Muir Woods near San Francisco, post-Golden Gate Bridge standoff in the second entry into the prequel Apes trilogy. Led by Andy Serkis commanding Caesar, the highly intelligent apes display just how much they've evolved and progressed in the time since we last laid eyes on them. Pulling back from the mighty chimp leader's unwavering stare, the group swing through the trees in a remarkably coordinated fashion, all while war-painted up Caesar juggles the responsibilities of guiding the many and his own flesh and blood. The unit then systematically and successfully taking down a deer in brutal fashion, all while taking a few gnarly hits along the way, provided the audience with the first piece of evidence to suggest that these apes mean business this time around. Number 3. Thank You Stan, Captain Marvel. In recent times, Marvel Studios have found more than a few ways to spice up their memorable opening title sequence. However, arguably the most moving version of the ever-changing sequence came back in 2019 as MCU prequel Captain Marvel got underway, with this Marvel Studios flick marking the first one since all-round comic book legend and Marvel leader Stan Lee sadly passed away in November 2018. The folks behind the picture opted to let loose one hell of a touching tribute to Stan the Man early on. Backed by the traditional score, Stan's always welcome MCU cameos from over the years were all thrown into the colourful sequence, with each and every chuckle, smile, wisecrack and wink filling out the legendary name he became synonymous with. The screen then faded to black and a short and simple thank you Stan set Captain Marvel's solo tale in motion. Number 2. A thrilling Star Wars, Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. Diving straight into the thick of a rather appropriate Star War, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker can be found soaring right into the thick of the action with one of the most dazzling continuous shots of the entire Skywalker saga. From here, the starfighters effortlessly float through cruisers and incoming blaster fire as John Williams' out-of-this-world music deliciously escalates the unstable situation. And the feeling of never being anything less than a few seconds away from potential death was disturbingly and sometimes hilariously captured time and time again during this explosive beginning above Coruscant. Lucas even found time to infuse a few glorious character beats in the dogfights too, with Anakin again recklessly doing all he can to keep his master from biting the dust mid-mission. Revenge of the Sith may have been somewhat hit and miss at times from there on out, but there's no doubting that Episode 3 got off to a truly exhilarating start. Number 1. A Cybertron War, Bumblebee. Opening up on the homeworld of the Autobots and Decepticons known as Cybertron, the extended live-action realizing of the war between the two bitter rival factions on their fictional planet in Bumblebee's opening sequence was something Transformer fans had been dying to properly witness for years. And not a second is wasted throughout the lively battle that feels as though it's been lifted straight from the much-loved OG cartoon series. Bumblebee and Optimus Prime are both given time to shine in their returning appearances, whilst the Decepticons also feel as relentless as ever amidst the colourful yet catastrophic action. Sure, the Cybertron experience may have been disappointingly fleeting here, with the story soon firing B off to Earth within a few minutes, but Travis Knight more than proved in this nostalgic opening that a film set on Cybertron could make for one of the most enjoyable of the series so far. Fans will just have to settle for it acting as the greatest opening scene of the franchise for now though. And that's our list of any other epic opening scenes from movie prequels that we've missed. Then let us know all about them in the comments section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're at it. Also, if you like this kind of stuff, then please head on over to whatculture.com and find some more fantastic articles just like the one this video you're watching this very second is based on. I have been Gareth from whatculture.com. Thank you as always for watching this lovely video today. Hopefully I'll see your pretty damn faces rather soon, but in the meantime, just be good to yourself. Bye bye!